Hey, welcome to my fourth R3 Driving Academy guide for Assetto Corsa EVO, this time in the Porsche Cup at Suzuka. Now I think this thing's supposed to have launch control, but it doesn't really work. To reliably launch with this car, hold the throttle about 80% in neutral before the lights go out. As the lights go out, shift up to first and then bring the throttle up to 100%. Now for the first turn, we're going to be turning in and then braking about a car length or two before we get to the curb on the inside there, and not braking fully, about half on the brakes, balancing the car on the edge of grip, carrying the car's momentum all the way to the outside curb there. Don't go too far out wide, but we want a very late apex in this turn, so be patient and all the way till about here. Now we're going to reach the apex, getting on throttle, carrying the car's momentum once again out to the outside curb here on the left, but don't go too far out because you'll end up in the grass as the curb ends there. Now from this point we're going straight back to the right side of the track, and we're beginning to turn in as we cross about halfway through the track, and then we're lifting off throttle around about where that cone is, lifting off throttle to let the car rotate in, and then we can use all of the inside curb here, even up to the very top of it, to shorten our line. This car doesn't seem to mind the curbs too much. Then on the throttle a bit, on the brakes a little bit to slow us down for this turn, using all the curb once again, rolling around the top of this curb and not accelerating too early because we want to bring the car a little bit back towards the right here, towards the middle of the track, to slightly open up our entry line for this next turn to the left. Now we don't need a brake for this turn, but we're going to lift off throttle just before we get to the cone there on the right side, and then turning in using all the curb once again. With this kind of entry line, we're not using the green area, but using all of the red and white part of the curb, bringing the car up to speed once again. Now we're going to double apex this turn, starting by braking around where that curb on the right begins, coming quite narrow to the turn initially, balancing the car on the edge of grip, and then coming back towards the apex later in the turn, straightening our line for the exit. Not getting on throttle too early because then we'll end up too wide here on exit, which makes the next turn too tight. At this point, we're going to slightly open up our entry line, coming a little bit more towards the right, then immediately turning back to the left there and lifting just as or just before we get to that cone there to allow the car to turn in. Off throttle, coasting in a bit, waiting for the car to make it to the apex, which is late along this curb here. You can run onto the curb, it's not going to affect you too much, and then we're flat out for this whole bend to the left here. And we slowly come back towards the inside around about there, staying towards the left, and now we're looking for where the 50 board is, or where that cone is marked out on screen, braking 2 to 3 car lengths before that, and not braking too hard, and we're coming off the brakes there, balancing the car on the edge of grip once again, flowing over this inside curb, cutting all the way up to that cone. You can actually cut through the cone at this point in time, but they might change that in the future, using most of the green area on the left. And then we're looking for the cones up ahead there, braking 4 to 5 car lengths before that, about halfway along this little straight here, and then we can cut this curb down here all the way up to that cone once again. Be sure not to carry too much speed in here or apex too early because that'll ruin your exit. Now on exit, we can carry our momentum all the way up to the green area on the left, not too far out because of course that will invalidate our lap, then back onto the track surface up towards the hairpin. Staying on the left, then bringing it in towards the right. We're going to lift off throttle just before we get to that curb on the right there, coasting through this bend, and then as soon as the curb on the right ends, we're going to get hard on the brakes, braking in a straight line here. Now the focus will be here to brake quite hard, go a little deep into the turn, and then have a late apex around this hairpin here. Later apex means straighter exit, which means we can get harder on throttle with less risk of spinning or going wide on exit. You might get a little bit of oversteer coming out of there, but it's usually not too much and you should be able to control it. Move the car to the left side of the track here to open up your entry line for this long bend to the right here. It might not be too tight, but you are carrying a lot of speed and it is easy to understeer wide if your entry line is very tight. At this point in the track, in the middle of the long bend, you do want to be on the outside of the track once again because this turn up ahead does tighten up, and if you enter tight, it might be hard for you to go flat out through this turn, especially to end up on the outside of the track at this point, because you want to be on the right side of the track here to enter this spoon curve up ahead. Braking about 2 or 3 car lengths before that, and then as we get to this point here, we're trailing the brake in, come as close as you can to this inside curve without getting onto it because it could push you offline a bit, then going all the way to the outside here. The limit will be your left side wheels on the red and white curb. Any wider than that and your lap could be invalidated. And then bring the car back towards the track a little bit, and then brake as you get to the end of the red and white part of the curb. Don't hold the brakes for too long here because you do want to carry some speed in and have a later apex around where that cone is there. The track does go a bit off camber here, you'll lose some grip on exit, you'll see I get a bit of oversteer there, but you should be able to get on throttle around where the apex was and then carry your momentum all the way to the outside curb. Now I think once again, keep your left side wheels within the red and white curb. Going too wide there will unnecessarily invalidate your lap. Down to 130R this time, you can't go flat out, you do need to get on the brakes a little bit. We're looking for the 50 board on the fence right there on the right, and we're braking a car length or 2 before it. Again, not too hard and not too long on the brakes, just enough to get us through the bend. You can cut over the inside curb there, then carry your speed all the way to the outside once again, and just like before, make sure your left side wheels are on or within the red and white curb. Any wider than that, again, a lap invalidation. Final hard braking point, we're braking about a car length before that cone on the left there, hard on the brakes, staying all the way to the outside, then trailing it in to cut over this inside curb all the way up to the cone. At this point in time, you can cut through the cone, you won't get fail. In the future, they might change. Here, just bring the car a little bit towards the right to open up your entry line slightly for the turn. It helps a bit. Now, just like before, we're cutting all the way up to the cone. You can, again, cut through the cone. It won't fail you. And again, it could change in the future, so just be aware of that. On exit, you can pop your right side wheels onto the green area, but make sure you get yourself back onto the track before you get to the grass, because if your right side wheels are where the grass is and then you get back onto the track, you're going to bounce over the curb and lose stability on exit. It could push you wide, might spin you out. Like you saw just there, I did get onto the track in time, but the curb still did bounce me a bit. Luckily it was fine, and then you flat out through the final turn all the way to the line, and that's the lap complete. Quite a long lap, and it's definitely a complex lap, a lot of tricky turns in there, so good luck for you all, and I hope the guides helped you out. For some reason my thing bugged out and it didn't read my time here. It gave me a bit of an issue, stuck on the Assetto Corsa EVO logo there we go, random issue. But hey, that's the lap done. I'll play through the whole run again without any interruptions. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.